Hi, my name is Greg, and I worked on this show, Promised Land. This was the second episode that we filmed after the pilot episode, but they didn't actually air this until like the sixth episode after the pilot episode. So there are things about the storyline that make more sense if this had been the second episode, but I'll get into that. Okay, here, in fact, we're just making a reference to that pilot episode through Russell's little dream sequence here. And it makes more sense that he would be thinking about this shortly after they started their road trip together as a family, rather than, in this case, being, a couple months into it. Now he's reminiscing about his little mission that was given to him by the angel Tess. Anyway, what you'll see as these folks are driving around back in this section, not the dream sequence, is a lot of tilted camera angles. And in the terminology of filmmaking, we call this a Dutched camera angle or a Dutching the camera, that sort of thing. So that's what they mean when the camera is slanted, it's not level. And this is kind of an indication that something weird is going on. Something's just a little off kilter, if you will. So a lot of camera angles here at the beginning are Dutched. What's actually happening as far as the filming goes, Celeste Holm is not driving the Suburban. The Suburban is actually on a trailer, what we would call a process trailer or insert trailer. What they do is they put a vehicle on a trailer so it sits only about a foot above what it would normally be, so that as you're looking out the windows and stuff, it doesn't look like they're that much higher off the ground than they would actually be. So special trailer that's made to hold a vehicle and also has, metal posts and rods and things along the side to allow you to mount camera and lighting equipment on the sides and then just drive around. This whole rig is being towed by another vehicle, which is kind of a hybrid. It looks sort of like the very front of it looks like the front of just a van that you might see, an industrial van. But it has a very powerful engine and also carries. So the back of it's more like a flatbed sort of a thing, but it has a place for the director to sit. It carries generators and other equipment to help them set up lights and have it all connected there. The director can sit there and watch a video feed that's tapped into the camera viewfinder. So when they go out and do a shot like this, they'll usually have the director and the director of photography and the script supervisor all sitting on the back of this tow vehicle with a monitor, and they're all paying attention to what's being filmed. Then the camera operator and assistant might be riding just behind them, just over the hood of the vehicle, getting the shot. All right, before I get too lost in those technical details, here we are at a place called Penny's Cafe. That's the real location. And it's out here on Highway 36, just south of Stockton, Utah. So it is kind of the middle of nowhere, because Stockton's a very small town on the outskirts of Tooele, which is kind of considered a smaller town compared to Salt Lake City. So off west of Salt Lake City, there's a mountain range that separates Salt Lake City from Tooele. So you go to Tooele, you go south of there to Stockton, you go farther south still, almost to Highway 73, and you run into this place, this real location called Penny's Cafe. Our art department dressed up the outside to make it look a little more weird than it normally would be. It doesn't look weird normally, but they wanted to make it look like this crazy little place called the Alien Cafe, which was supposed to be near Roswell, New Mexico, a place where people that are into UFO conspiracies just sort of find themselves congregating and, getting together with like-minded people. So that place, Penny's Cafe, had been used before for various film and TV productions. In fact, the first episode of Touched by an Angel that aired about 2 years before this featured Wendy Phillips, who plays our Claire Green, and there was a sequence that happened at this same place when it was not dressed up to look like the weird Alien Cafe. About 1 year before this episode was made. Gerald McRaney appeared in the season premiere of Touched by an Angel, and now here they are together playing husband and wife. This is not the interior of Penny's Cafe. They put a green screen there at the doorway, and they added the effect of seeing the exterior there on the side of Highway 36. But this interior, this actual interior where we're shooting this part, is a place. It's a bar near Copperton, Utah, Bingham Canyon. At one time, the place was called the Ore House because it's near this mine, this big open pit mine. But what our art department went in there and dressed this place up. I mean, every last square inch of this place was dressed up to look like it was a place devoted to extraterrestrial alien conspiracy type stuff. They just took this bar over, and we used this for several days. So the entire production of the episode took 8 days. We did the first part of it out there on location at Penny's Cafe, all the exterior stuff. Then when we finished all of that, we started working the interior spots here near Copperton. And our director for this episode is Michael Schultz. He also directed the pilot episode of Promised Land, which was part of Touched by an Angel. So one thing I've come to notice just watching these episodes over again, and some of the other stuff that Michael Schultz had done with us, he does seem to use a lot of depth within the picture. So you'll see something in the foreground, and you see a lot of details and people doing things in the far background. This stacked action, and even though you don't really get to hear what's happening in the far background, there's still something happening back there that keeps it visually interesting. So that's one characteristic I've noticed as I've been scrutinizing these episodes, something that Michael Schultz did. We would rarely, you count on one hand the amount of times we had the same director do 2 episodes in a row. And part of the reason that they would alternate, or every other episode at most, for a director that would come back and do multiple episodes, part of the reason they do that is because they would need to prepare for the next episode. So you do one episode, for example, and then when you're done, you work with the editor for a couple of days and get the details worked out, and then start preparing for the next episode you're going to do. So very difficult to do all of that while doing back-to-back episodes. So they didn't do that. They would also alternate assistant directors. So when you have the assistant director would work on an episode and then spend the time that the next episode was being filmed preparing for the one after that. So generally we would have 2 assistant directors. They'd do every other episode and then be in preparation when they weren't working actively on an episode. Now, then they'd have a second assistant director, and in this case it was Anthony Hemingway. He was our second. Hey, notice the Dutch camera angle again. Camera's kind of slanted. Something weird going on here. So Anthony Hemingway was our second assistant director, and he did work every episode of this season. Then we would have a second assistant director. If you've been watching the credits carefully in the movies and TV shows that you watch, that sounds strange. Second. What is that? I mean, all these assistant directors, it sounds fake. It sounds like these people aren't really doing anything. They're getting these kind of fake titles just to pad their resume or something. No, I will tell you, the second assistant director is a very important part of the crew as well, who would work on every episode, and just working very hard, these folks. So don't get caught up in the titles of the job titles that you might see in the credits. They're all very hard-working people with real jobs who really do work hard. to get an episode done. All right, I'm getting lost in some of the details and need to catch you up on the plot of this episode. What has happened is that the Green family is trying to get to Denver because they're trying to catch up with Brother Joe or Uncle Joe. And, this is Nathaniel's dad, and they're trying to, patch up the family. So in the chronology of the way we shot these, this is only supposed to be the second episode where they're out there and they're still, they've got sidetracked at a motel in the first episode. Now they're looking for Joe. Dinah is the official navigator for the family on this road trip, and Dinah has diverted them off towards Roswell, New Mexico. And so she said, hey, there's like a space museum there. Let's go. And, the family's kind of annoyed. Oh, come on, we're trying to get to Denver. And she said, well, let's just try it. So they stop. They have to get gas. And they stop at this diner, and they start meeting some of these unusual folks. And we have some pretty high-profile folks in our cast here. In particular, here you're seeing John Hawkes. Now, John Hawkes, 1 year earlier, or thereabouts, had been in an episode of Touched by an Angel, and he played just some random, street criminal, drug dealer type of guy, a small role in that episode. And then here he is back as the eccentric DJ at the KUFO radio station here in Roswell, New Mexico, which is right there inside this Alien Cafe. John Hawkes, after this, went on to do and has done and continues to do some impressive stuff. Just a few years after this, he was one of the featured actors in a movie called The Perfect Storm with George Clooney. And, he's done a lot of television stuff. He's got an Oscar nomination just a little while back. And, and he doesn't have that long, shaggy hair quite like he did at this time. But, he's still Deadwood. He's done a lot of stuff. Real high-profile actor. So we got him sort of in his early days playing our articulate, eccentric DJ at KUFO Radio. Now this actress here plays Emily in the show, and she hasn't done a lot of screen work or television work, but she had done a lot of theater, and just a couple credits on the Internet Movie Database for screen acting. Jean, what is her name? Her first name Jean. Anyway, she again has mostly done stage work, but also just a couple little roles, and we got her on one of them, and she plays Emily, the owner of the Alien Cafe. Another high-profile actor we have in this episode is, of course, James Brolin, and there you see him playing a scene with Gerald McRaney. James Brolin, big movie star, been around for a long time, long distinguished career, and we had him here on the episode. Now, this was the very end of July, beginning of August of 1996. At the time, we didn't know, but I think he had already started a relationship with Barbra Streisand. So it was a year or two after that it became public knowledge that, he and Barbra Streisand were a couple. They've been married for quite a few years now. So there he was, and I didn't get a lot of chance to talk to him, but as I said, Michael Schultz had this thing where he would have a lot of things happening in the frame. So even if we had a scene that didn't feature James Brolin very prominently, he would be often just in the background of the scene, just kind of sitting at the bar, just being there. And a lot of times during our downtime, he would just be on the phone. His own personal phone, just talking to someone. And it was only later that I realized, he was probably talking to Barbra Streisand, just sitting there in the same room with us, talking to Barbra. But they've been married for a while. James Brolin, of course, is the father of Josh Brolin, who, a fine actor in his own right, who is probably, much more prominent today than James Brolin. But, it was just fun to kind of have him around, of course. He plays in this episode a role that at first you don't know who it is, but he turns out to be a long-lost NASA astronaut that somehow ended up in this general area and then disappeared, and nobody knows what happened to him. So secretly, he comes to this alien cafe and pals around with these people that are into alien conspiracies and figure that the astronaut Scott Porter was kidnapped by aliens, but in reality, it's this character played by James Brolin, who never left Earth after having once walked on the moon as an astronaut. So that's what he plays in this episode.